Hey everybody, Travis Clater back for another strategic thought for the day, and we are continuing our conversation on transparency. Now, I've said it before, but it should be obvious that we live in a time where consumers demand transparency from brands and organizations. But what's not so obvious is how to be transparent or what transparency even means. Now, hopefully you caught the first video, but if not, check out our previous post where we discussed the 5 W's: the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why of transparency, starting with the who and the what. Now, the one thing that I do want to call out from the previous video is what transparency isn't. Transparency isn't calling out every specific incident or airing all of your dirty laundry to every single audience that you have. Those are specific moments, and talking about specific moments doesn't create transparency with those audiences. Again, I'm not saying hide these things. I'm just saying think of transparency more strategically than that. But be sure to check out our first video where we review all of that. Today, we're discussing the when and the where of transparency and how they relate to your business and how you can use them effectively. So, when does your company need to be transparent? Well, if you have to think of this in specific moments, you may need to go back and redefine how you are looking at transparency in general. Transparency is an ongoing activity. It's also a culture that's created internally without starting or stopping points. It is an ongoing initiative. It should be something that is embraced with all initiatives and all activities within your organization and focused on both your internal and your external audiences. Now, one important thing to call out here is transparency during a crisis. Yes, you need ongoing transparency efforts to build your brand as a transparent, trustworthy organization that your audiences want to support. But once you're in the middle of a crisis, transparency through consistent communications is crucial to successfully surviving that crisis. Again, let me say that it is not about pulling back the curtain on every piece of information or specific element of that crisis or that incident. It's about a feeling that you are being forthcoming with information and open about what's happening. Again, that's done through consistent and strategic communications. This is where it's vital, and I've said this before, but it's vital to have a crisis communications plan. I wrote a blog about this a while back, so make sure you check that out. And now we get into the where. So, where exactly do you need to be transparent? It's a great time to bring up something that is often overlooked when it comes to transparency and communications in general, and that's your internal audiences. And I actually wrote a blog about communicating with your internal audiences during a crisis, and I'll post a link to that. But being transparent with your teams and your employees is just as important, if not more so, than being transparent with your external audiences. Now, I've seen many businesses lose control of situations because their internal teams aren't communicated with appropriately and there isn't transparency with what's happening. Now, your employees are the heart and soul of your organization and your company, and I don't have to preach that. Everybody knows that, but they are. And the idea of transparency starts with them. If you foster that, you'll actually find that it's much easier to convey the idea of transparency and that you are a transparent organization to your external audiences. For your external audiences, you need to bring the idea of transparency to life with everything you do, from in-person interactions and website content to digital and social channels. Your brand needs to convey transparency through and through. Now, the best way to do this is through meaningful engagement. Answer questions, respond to comments, and make time to connect with your audiences. And I've said it before, but transparency is as much a feeling as it is an action. Make your audiences feel like you're connecting with them in a meaningful way, and you're that much closer to being seen as a transparent brand. So look at all of the areas that you have to provide an opportunity to engage with your internal and your external audiences and find ways to provide that meaningful interaction and engagement that they're demanding. And there's your strategic thought for the day. Thank you so much for joining me for these. Be sure to check out our other posts, including our previous posts on transparency, as well as sign up for our newsletter at tcstrategic.com. And we'll see you again soon.